Ho, 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 Merry Christmas. Shh, it's really just me.
Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring, ting, tingling too. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Outside the snow is falling and friends are calling you. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you.
Hey everybody, well, it's Christmas time, it's the holiday season, and the holidays are always about spending time with family and friends, and that's exactly what we're going to do this month here on Toy Talk. Rather than our normal episode, what I've done is I've invited back several of our friends that have joined us throughout the year as guests on the show, and we're going to have a couple different segments with different people coming in, meeting each other, and spending some more time with you. So we're going to start right out with our guest for this month, which is bringing back Jillian Shamberger, as well as Lisa and Timmy Tardiff. And what I love about this is we're bringing all the holidays together. We've got Lisa and Timmy from Valentine's Day coming in with Jillian from Halloween to celebrate Christmas. I mean, so good to see you guys again.
Thanks for being back.
Yeah. I want to talk about some of our favorite gifts. And I don't know if you have any specific ones that you remember like getting as a child, Jillian, that stand out to you.
Well, I was born in '77, so I got all the '80s toys, all the really killer '80s toys, and
Gotcha.
I mean, this was definitely one of my favorites. But I did have some Barbies. I had like some He-Man toys and all the.
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't see you just as a Barbie girl.
Yeah,
by any
there was a
stretch.
lot of that. Again, My Pet Monster was another one I got that was really awesome.
It's back in your room now, yeah.
Yes.
And this is Wiggles.
This is Wrinkles.
Wrinkles. Okay, got it.
Yeah, these are by the Gans company, and they came out the mid '80s. And this one specifically, they're puppets, and they're very clearly made for kids because the little thing in the back is very small.
Your hand does not want to go in there.
But they had regular puppets, but then this one specifically talks, and it's very high quality audio, as you can tell.
Oh yeah, well for the time, I mean it's not really that far off.
And he's actually pretty demanding, and he wants to make out.
It's got the and you can make the tongue comments, but okay.
This again.
He really just wants to talk away. He's going to steal the show.
This one, like most of the toys I own now, were not the ones that I had growing up. I had to rebuy it as an adult. So, but I love him. He's adorable.
I'm glad he said bye. It's the end of the Wrinkles show there for a moment. Anyway, do you guys remember Wrinkles? I mean, I recognized him as soon as I saw him. I couldn't remember his name, but I remember seeing him.
Vaguely.
It kind of reminds me of like a kind of, he almost looks more like, I guess, hip for a better term. It kind of reminds me of the Vans, the kind of, but he reminds me of kind of like a hip pound puppy.
Yeah,
looking at him,
Yeah,
it's kind of for the times.
They were trying to play on the smart toy thing, so you could press a button and have it ask different questions. So.
Oh, so it actually asked you things. And is it interactive?
No, it's not interactive. It has about 6 or 7 phrases that it repeats over and over.
Okay, so it's basically
smart is a very loose
it's
term.
It's the next step above the pull string.
Yes,
when we started getting the squeeze.
Yes, exactly.
You and I mentioned Pee-wee, and Pee-wee has been mentioned a lot of times on the show, and he was really kind of the last pull string doll made. When that came out, pull string technology was actually kind of had been phased out, and they had started doing these squeeze toys like this, and Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman, insisted, no, I want it to be a pull string. They didn't want it that way, and as far as, if I'm correct, that was the last pull string ever made. You guys brought some stuff in too. Now, the thing that really kind of I loved was if you could just see the Topps football sticker album. Now, I totally remember these as a kid. What were you telling me about this? You were saying...
I've been collecting since 1978. I think this is 1981. It's the only thing I've ever completed. and I've changed my topic probably a gazillion times. And always go back to Hot Wheels. But this is the only thing I've ever completed as far as a set.
And I remember those so much. I mean, I remember buying those stickers. They were like, if I remember right, they were maybe a dime, I think a quarter a pack.
For a package.
And you'd get a bunch of stickers, and you'd get the same 5 like 100 times over.
Trading was fun, though. If you had enough friends, trading was fun. If you didn't have this and they didn't have, it didn't matter that this one was worth more than the other one. It was,
it was just a matter of you need that guy and I need it. It's
now
kind of
it's
like
I need 4 of these for one of those.
Exactly. It's kind of like the forerunner to Pokemon in a lot of way when you think about it like that.
Yep, you're right.
But Pokemon, of course, you get a lot of different values and you're competing, but with these, you're just trying to complete the book.
Yeah.
And, I just want to mention, we were talking a little bit last night and you were saying like, in Christmas, when you were younger, there wasn't a lot of toys around. There wasn't a lot of money. So it was like, that's what ended up sparking you into toy collecting.
I grew up in the projects. I grew up poor, and we had Kick the Can was our favorite toy.
I remember playing Kick the Can. Yes, we called it hockey, but it was Kick the Can.
Hot Wheels was a big thing because they were less than $1. They were like 60 cents at the time.
Sure.
And so I kept a lot of my Hot Wheels. I do have a lot still. But my mom used to wrap the deodorant, wrap a toothbrush, with the things that we opened. We got a ruler, a pencil, everything was wrapped individually.
Yeah.
But I remember that. I remember, Lou's thrift shop had games, and you have to count the pieces after you opened it for Christmas.
Just to make sure I had the pieces. Yeah, that it's complete. That's awesome. And you said this was from your grandmother's.
Yeah, well, my Nana bought me a coloring book. I think it was 74.
You got to hold up the picture of that. I love the old Captain America.
Or something to that nature. Now, it looks like I could color really well in like 1978, but I never got any better. I was 10 when I colored this, I think, maybe 9.
Which was advanced for a 10-year-old.
Yeah, but
not
it's still
so much
color
for
almost
now.
the same. But it was every time I went to my Nana's, she had coloring books for us, and this is the one that actually made it back to me after she passed away.
Oh, okay. So this has been.
So I'll keep this
obviously
forever and
we knew for the
ever.
coloring was the
And when I
original
die, those kids will see it. My kids will look at it.
Jillian, let me ask you now. Toy that got away. Is there ever one you really wanted you never got?
I mean,
Okay,
I was
so you
very,
did have
very
them.
lucky. I got some really rad toys for Christmas. I can't think of one off the top of my head that would have gotten away because I've become so obsessed with rebuying these things as an adult.
Okay. Yep.
So now I have all of them, and they're all, collectively.
Growing up in Gloucester, like we did, there was Ames, and I remember at least one specific time. I don't know if there was others that. Word had gotten out there was going to be a shipment of Cabbage Patch Kids coming in. And literally, people camped out overnight, just to get them. And they were sold out in minutes. As soon as that door opened, boom, in Cabbage Patch Kid, That was, for 80s. That was
exciting, though. There was no online then.
No,
it was
absolutely.
exciting
Now
to stand outside and wait for a toy.
Yeah.
I've
no,
been to a
like you
Walmart
said, they
grand
come
opening.
online and it's real easy to grab, which is a convenience thing, but takes away some of that excitement.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I did the Black Friday thing once, and I'm all set with that. Try to get them the other way.
Right?
I gotcha. Lisa,
you know what
give
it
me a
is?
specific toy. I know Timmy brought his in,
Well,
but
definitely the Cabbage Patch craze thing, right?
Yeah.
But I remember when I was a kid, I got the big, huge Barbie house, the one where the
the
doll
Barbie
would,
dream
the
house.
elevator was this big, it fit the Barbie. You had the dream house.
yes.
And I was just in my glory that Christmas just to get that.
I remember that thing. It was like open on one end,
Yes,
right? And you would
exactly.
see inside
There's
all
like
the
3
rooms. I
levels,
think
yes.
at the time it was probably about as tall as I was.
Yeah.
It was huge,
Yep,
And,
that's it. That's the
I
one.
actually saw one of those recently at a thrift store in Beverly. You guys just drove through that area on the way here. And they would not sell it. It was in a thrift store. They put it in the window, and it was in the box. It was sealed. And they had it like in there, and it was like in this, everything in the window is not for sale sign there. And it was like, oh, come on.
my
you're
God.
kidding
Drag
me.
you in there.
Yep.
But you guys, a toy, one that got away. What's one? I know you said, there
For
was
me,
a
it
lot
was
that got away.
I
but-
had the Evil Knievel stunt cycle, and I wanted the camper so bad. It was just,
Oh my
it was
gosh.
expensive then. Now it's $1 million.
Oh, it's a few hundred. I saw
yeah.
the camper recently at an auction. It went too high. But the stunt cycle that you mentioned was the
Yeah.
one I wanted. I don't remember if I
I
had it as a
did get
kid.
that. My uncle bought it for me.
It's one of those kick yourself things, because you were just saying, Jillian, when we were talking before, was about you passed on a certain doll, you walked away, and then you came back for it and it was gone a week
Made me
later.
so sad, yeah.
When I was first collecting toys, I went into this one particular toy shop, vintage toy shop, and there was the Evil Knievel stunt cycle. And I saw it and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool looking. And they had asked like $25 for it, and I kind of, I walked away. I didn't know anything about toys. I was just starting. And I went back a few days, about a week later, it was gone. Had I known it was worth a few $100s, I wouldn't have hesitated for a second.
Right.
Because for me, my favorite, going back, if either of you remember them, I loved Electro Man. If you remember Electro Man. My
Spider-Man?
mother, no, he was not
different
from
Electro
anything.
Man.
He was just a random superhero. My mother used to tell me he was the first ever battery-operated superhero. I don't know if that was true or not. But he would, basically, all he had was a light on his head. It would light up, it was like a flashlight. And he had this button on the back, and you could change the settings to what sound he would make. It was just like a wee, 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 or a woo, 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 woo. And that's all he did. And Electro Man was cool, but if I were to look at him now, like if my kids had him, I'd probably look at him as like the most annoying. All he did was make these siren noises.
It's the ones that we take the batteries out at home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can imagine.
And we
You
tell
got
the
little
kids they
kids still at
died.
home like me. Thanks for coming in again. It's good seeing you all and sharing. And we'll have to do another episode again sometime with different stuff that for you guys. We did the Halloween. I don't know what else I would do different for you, Jillian, but I know Timmy and Lisa
I do
do
collect
lots of
vintage
things.
80s, so I have quite a few of those toys.
That's true. You
too.
did have some 90210 dolls and stuff that I kind of kicked myself for not mentioning on the show. I realized it after. And some different things like that.
That one came from Comic-Con this
Timmy's,
past
I was just
summer.
going to say, and Timmy's 10 again, once again, we could do an episode focusing on, there's a lot of sales on there. I've since joined the administration team for the online page since the last time we had a show. And Timmy's 10 again has been doing what's called flash sales quite a bit on the page now, where basically people put one item at a time, throughout the day, and people grab the items. It's just like a huge sale.
Yeah, we've also started about 6 non-sales groups, which is just pure fun. We have a coffee group, a pet group.
That's something I should say. The Timmy's 10 Again, as I say that, it's not just Timmy's 10 Again. There was Timmy's 10 Again Toys and Collectibles. There's Timmy's 10 Again Antiques. There's Timmy's 10 Again.
There's a lot.
The cassettes and records. There's like several different Timmy's 10 Again sites. So definitely,
Building
when
an
you're on
empire.
Facebook, check them out. They're a lot of fun. We're going to be back in just about 30 seconds after a commercial, and I've got 3 more guests coming back to see us again.
I am Santa, I am good. I am here to train each of you to become a real Santa Claus. Give me a ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho. These guys come in all sizes, big, fat, old. Well, if this isn't the sorriest bunch of recruits I have ever seen. Yeah, we got to train them for snowstorms. We got to train them for water hazards. We got to train them for, chimneys. We make up little songs. I am sticky, I'm in pain. Because my cock is a candy cane. We are making Christmas here. There are 2 things that come out of the North Pole. Elves and reindeer. Which one are you? I'm an elf. My job is to mold them into Santa Claus. You're not an elf! You're a Santa Claus! This is a reindeer. Jingle all the way! I'm tough on these guys. And from now on! I mean, sometimes these guys turn on each other. It gets pretty ugly. Not fun on Christmas!
How do you like the kids? Well, I can take them or leave them. It's, kind of...
Is that real fat? Are these real boobs? Okay. Next.
And then Christmas arrives.
Get up, it's Christmas! Go! It's Christmas!
All right, well, we're back from commercial, and with that, we have 2 new guests. Dawn, our Jillian, and Timmy and Lisa, and now we're joined by Frank Rich and Erik Maramaldi, who we've seen on the show before.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, what's going on? Welcome back, guys.
Thanks, Jack.
Of course, Frank was from Star Wars Autograph News, and Erik Maramaldi came with some great collectibles. I specifically remember the over-the-top figure.
Oh, yes.
Just loved that.
I've picked up more since then. I have half
More
the
from
set.
the show? Yeah. Excellent. And, we're talking about Christmas and holidays, even before we start talking about the toys, I know, Frank here, you worked for the Catholic Archdiocese doing, sign language at the different masses and different stuff like that. So I'm assuming that Christmas is a pretty busy season in that area, in that realm. Yeah.
It is. It's my favorite time of the year, and especially working for the Archdiocese as an interpreter. I typically have just on Christmas Eve, 3 masses that I'll interpret, like a 5 o'clock, a 7, and the midnight.
The midnight, always the midnight mass. I remember that
it's
growing
a
up.
big
late
time,
one.
yeah.
Tortured.
Yeah. But then, so that's from that aspect. Working for the Archdiocese, it's a beautiful time. But also coming from a Sicilian fishing family, Christmas Eve is
huge.
Bigger than Christmas. I mean, that's the night we're all together. Whenever the boats come in, love it.
But we're talking mainly about different toys we've gotten at Christmas over the years. Some of our favorites. Shoot me something, Eric. What is one of the favorites you've gotten? Or any stories about any you've gotten?
I mean, you name it, anything, any 80s goodness, Star Wars, Transformers, GoBots, later on like Visionary stuff.
They're mini Transformers.
Yes. Hey, there's a huge following for GoBots.
There is,
even
yes.
so much more than the Transformers. So, all your typical stuff that any 80 kids loves.
Sure. Okay.
So because now you're sounding like my brother, who's a little bit younger than me, he was into a lot of that stuff, but he also had Mask, the figures like
Mask, the M period, A period, S period,
I thought those were really, they weren't really compatible with Star Wars toys because they were so much smaller, but they were really cool. I thought
they're like 2
cool.
inches. And stuff. Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, I had them. They were just, I'd have it for an hour.
They were a popular series. But Frank, shoot me something. What's something you've loved? I'm assuming there's some Star Wars mentioned here.
Maybe a few. Oh yeah. From the time I was 6 until 11, every Christmas was Star Wars.
Everything was Star Wars.
Everything was Star Wars.
And pretty much every Christmas since, I'm assuming.
There's not a Christmas. There's always something Star Wars every Christmas.
But what's a favorite toy you've gotten, especially at Christmas time from Star Wars?
Well, the biggest one was the Death Star.
The Death Star.
That's a good one.
Star Wars.
Yes.
So that was absolutely the greatest, and it was the first play set for Star Wars. I just saw one at a show in Framingham.
I was going to say, I just saw one recently. They had one. It was an open box, but right down the road at Nostos Nostos Boutique, right down the road here, had it recently.
Oh, it was a friend of mine, Chris, had it, and it was in such good condition. The only thing he didn't have was the little foam pieces that go into the.
No one has those.
Nobody
those
has
are
those.
like degraded.
They just disintegrated.
Yeah, they're not.
It was my favorite. It didn't last long. It got a lot of use, a lot of play.
There was a lot.
But it was cardboard in the front, and it took it. And you used to take it apart.
Arguably, it's just hard to say because there's so much, but it might be the best place that the Star Wars put out. It really had a lot to it.
I would definitely agree. I love that thing.
I can't think of any. I mean, I'm thinking offhand of the Ewok Village and different play sets, but I can't think of any that was really as detailed as the Death Star. That had as much to do,
Yeah, I mean, it had 3 floors, really. Count the trash compactor.
The trash compactor was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a cool play set. The Dagobah one was mine just because it was awesome.
Dagobah, yes.
You could go around and you could actually put the guys on the stands and move them around and levitate things. So I like that one.
I remember that. I forgot about the levitation. That's right. Now, one of the things cool on that is I remember watching on Toy Hunter once too, and they were talking about how the guy who created that toy actually has his son's initials carved into a certain, I can't remember exactly where, but into the Dagobah set as like a tribute to his son, which was kind of a cool thing.
I was just talking to my mother about the Death Star. I told her I was going to be talking about the Death Star. When I mentioned the Death Star, she just shook her head. Oh, that thing. One of those stories, she had to run into the store and she grabbed like one of the last ones and all the parents were grabbing them. And
you still see the excitement even now.
Oh,
so it was well worth it. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's funny, we all have that one toy we played with over and over. And I mentioned in the first section that Electro-Man was my favorite toy growing up. I'm pretty sure I got that at Christmas, although I'm not positive. But now that I think about it, and going into the younger years, it was the Fisher-Price Garage. I loved that thing. You would have the little bell you'd turn, and it had the elevator lift, and and it just the car would go down like this hill, like it was like a little ramp thing. It was awesome. I found that a few years ago at a flea market or something. I brought it home, with the intention of selling it. And my son got a hold of it when he was about 5. And it was the best thing ever because he sat there and just played with it and loved it. And it was just like, I'm sitting there with him going, man, I remember playing with it. I'm playing with my son. It was just so much fun.
My favorite Fisher-Price toy, and I'll never forget it, and I actually saw one recently and I've been contemplating getting it, is the old Fisher-Price Gilligan's Island.
Oh,
do you remember that?
Was it that? Huh.
There was one
floated in the tub.
Yeah, that's I had that.
It was a little 3-piece island. It came with the boat, a little dock, Marianne, Gilligan, and Skipper, and they were like little squeaky, I don't want to say squeaky toys, but and they would sit in like specific stations, and it would float. You cannot. It's so hard to find, and
I've never heard of it. And now that you say it, the big thing that I collect is TV toys and toys that I grew, shows that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And I never even thought of it for some reason until this minute. But I have nothing from Gilligan's Island. That was one of my favorite shows.
And the thing is, they made it in
this set or something.
They made it in probably like 77, 78.
So it was well after the show was
Yeah,
off the
it
air.
wasn't new, but it was a little Fisher Price.
Yeah.
And you can't, it came with like, the treasure chest is impossible to find. Like you can't. It's just, but it was awesome because it floated in the tub. It was like its own floating. It was an island.
Sure.
And the boats and stuff. It was an awesome tub toy. Yeah.
The Fisher Price reminds me of one of my other favorite Christmas presents, and it was the Adventure People. It was fun to mix the Star Wars toys with the Adventure People.
I don't even know what the Adventure People is, to be honest with you.
Oh, they were great.
They were cool. I
never
remember
had-
them.
I
I haven't
boats.
seen them in years, but I do remember
They
them.
had a boat that with a shark and the crew that goes on to like scientists, and they had that was
now I
one.
know
They
what
had a
that is,
safari
okay.
with lions and a jeep.
That's
and
right.
It was a
forgot
lot
the
of
Jeep
fun.
stuff. And another one, obviously, that we've talked about presents you've got over Christmas that you love. You brought one
Yes.
in with you.
The Dust Brain Mad Ball, a very
Dust Brain.
1985, I believe. Yep. And these one year when those came out in '85, people went ballistic for them. It was the first.
Oh, they were huge.
Crazy type ball you could have. All the kids.
Oh yeah, and then
wanted
it
them.
spurred a whole series of things like breath blasters and different
Yep,
stuff with these
yep.
crazy like monster-looking
And
ball-shaped things.
to
they were
find
just
them
cool.
now is very difficult. You can't. They always
You
have.
got to
the-
watch now too because they've re-released the
Yeah.
the Mad Balls rather, looking exactly like the old ones. So
Yep.
you really got to be paying attention now to make sure you're not buying a modern one.
Comes out. This one's actually pretty good. I was lucky to find it. I mean, it does have some paint wear on the ridge just from getting thrown, but
Yeah.
they're a hard ball. But
That's what I was just going
the
to say.
stuff
These
doesn't-
things were not soft. I mean, you get hit with them,
You're gonna feel
you know?
it, yeah. But they had, they came up with like I think 5 initially, 6, and then they did a second series, and then they did a football, like an actual football.
Yes,
the
I forgot
Touchdown
about the
Terror
football.
is what it was called, and there was a basketball, but I don't remember the basketball.
I'm not even sure, but I'm just thinking on it now too because they
And
look
soccer
so
ball,
similar.
too,
But
I
was
think.
My Pet Monster, was that by the same people? I know it's a totally different material, but the look, I never really pieced it. But the more I think about it, some of the Mad Balls have a pretty similar look to My Pet Monster.
They had a lot of weird stuff during that time, like the Boglins and the Ghoulies. Remember
Boglins.
those?
All these memories are coming back
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
I could think of what Star Wars before, but I there was one gift I wanted for the longest time, and I finally got it like when I was a little older. But it was a tabletop hockey game.
Oh yeah,
Not
yeah,
the
yeah.
old Bobby Orr one. It was a newer one, but I remember getting that for Christmas. And
Those ones where they would slide up and down
yeah.
the table and each. Oh, those things were great.
I loved
Yeah.
it. Getting that was a huge gift, and
It
was probably
a
I was in high school.
big
I was
step
older.
up from what I remember being the one before was the electronic football, where basically all it did was a table that vibrated.
Yeah.
There was
Yes,
no
and you-
skill whatsoever.
No,
the fingures
no.
just moved from the shaking, and that was it.
It was the worst.
Oh,
thing.
that was terrible.
Worst.
But hey, it's great having you guys back. I do want to mention Star Wars Autograph News that we've had, mentioned obviously in the Star Wars episode. You've had a pretty big revamp on the website.
Yes,
And there's a lot going
It
on
was-
there.
Yeah, it took
So check it
years
out
to
again.
switch over. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
finally able to do what I wanted to do for a long time with it.
All right, excellent. It was great having you guys on again.
Anytime, my
Merry
friend.
Christmas and happy holidays
You
to you
too.
guys and everybody out there watching online. And we'll see you again next month on Toy Talk.
Oh, Christmas. Oh, Christmas. 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 Christmas?
Christmas, Christmas, Christmas.
Tell us, Pete, Jan, what makes Christmas for you?
What do you reckon, Jan? It's got to be the arrival of the Christmas human, don't you think? We always like to get ours right at the start of December. Jan and I like a medium build. It's got to have a nice shape.
Oh, yes.
Merry Christmas.
Ah, I do love the smell of real humans. You know, it's a funny tradition bringing a human into your home, but Christmas wouldn't be the same without it.
Oh, absolutely.